Hi guys.
Well, hey, how are you doing?
Good, Nicola. How are you?
I'm really great and so delighted that you're with us for the next in the series of QCT in Conversation.
Was there a good reception after the last conversation that we had?
The reception was really positive. Young people really appreciated that we had the conversation because the matters that we discussed really matter to them.
Mike sent us
Yeah.
a really sweet letter as well, and
Yeah, it was so
we love
nice
that
after the
conversation.
This is a conversation about using digital, the online world for good. And we have the very best people in the world to talk to this, who have been in the online world for a very long time, creating the most extraordinary communities and doing the most amazing work. Me, I have the privilege to be the Chief Executive of the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, having an awesome ride, bringing to life a platform where young people's voices are heard, their ideas taken seriously, pumping out, transmitting into the world all the time, positivity, optimism, grace, goodness, what people can do rather than what they can't.
Nicola, your energy is awesome. So my name is Rosie and I'm from down under in Australia and I'm co-founder of Project Rocket. So we're Australia's youth-driven movement against bullying, hate and prejudice. And my sister and I actually started Project Rocket when we were really fresh out of high school over a decade ago, when there were no anti-bullying programs in schools at all. As young people ourselves at the time, we were so sick and tired, actually, really sick and tired of seeing the way that bullying was just robbing our peers of their light and frankly destroying their lives and their opportunities. And we just really felt like someone should really do something about this. And at the time, we came up with a new vision for what we wanted to see in the world. And that vision is this: that we believe in a world where kindness and respect thrive over bullying, hate and prejudice, and every young person is free to realize their potential. So that vision was 14 years ago. And I guess since then, we've been building Project Rocket in Australia to recruit young people, turn them into change makers, and basically send them into schools all over Australia and teach them how to stand up instead of standing by. I think when it comes to this topic, how can we mobilize kindness online? It's that vision has really never been more relevant. That kid who just finished high school who was restless for change has endured. I don't know if I'll ever stop being restless for change. So it's so awesome to be here today and to really unlock some of the answers of how we can really build a more empathetic digital world that holds hate accountable, calls hate out, and basically mobilizes people for the greater good.
That's incredible, Rosie.
Well,
Thank
Rosie,
you.
you're busy.
So my name is V and I'm 22 years old. I've just graduated from the University of Oxford and found out today that I got a 2-1, which is the grade that I wanted. I'm very happy. And I'll be starting my degree at Harvard University in 10 days, studying international education policy. I started using social media as a platform for good about a year and a half ago or 2 years. When I got to Oxford, I realized that there were not a lot of people there who looked like me or sounded like me or had the same background as me. And every time I came back home, everyone would ask me, like, what do you eat in Oxford? Do you eat lobster? What do they wear? Is it like Harry Potter? No one believed what that world was like and that I could be there. So I realized there was a gap. Something was missing because everyone back here at home thought that Oxford was planet Mars and something unattainable and something that we couldn't do. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go to Oxford, be unapologetically me, document it on the internet and encourage other students from disadvantaged backgrounds to apply, because as long as you care about your subject, as long as you're passionate about it, you can do well here. So I've been vlogging my entire experience and we're now at 150,000 subscribers strong. Lots of students who are just feeling passionate and inspired to go and aim for whatever they want to aim for. I also created an online platform called Empowered by V, where I hold an annual academic conference, just teaching how to do personal statements, how to choose A-levels that can help you get where you want to get, just giving any information I can, because I think a lot of students from my background just don't have the opportunities or the information, and it's not about a lack of intelligence or a lack of talent or ability, it's more just not having the chance. So if I can help it, I want to make sure everything I know I share on the internet, and there are 100 more V's going to a place like Oxford and just changing things up and helping change the world. That's great,
Well,
V. We're so happy for you.
So V, so what you're saying is there isn't lobster in Oxford?
No,
The only reason I'm not concerned. It's Hunter that looked a little bit like, whoa, that's everything that he's always believed in. It's like, what's the point? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on?
Goodness, I feel like if I have a sip of my coffee, I'll just explode with positivity. But so nice to see you all again. I run a charity called the Man Cave. Basically what we do is send in super diverse, super relatable male facilitators into high schools that make it normal and cool for boys to take the mask off and start to open up and develop their emotions and realize that largely their experiences are widely shared, and that's okay. We're about to also launch a new personal care brand with a social purpose, but also using the power of digital media for social good. So that'll be kickstarted from the Man Cave too as well. So really exciting evolution for us. And, you know, our whole belief is that whether it's mental health or even family violence, very much the systems we have to deal with those issues are geared around crisis management. And fundamentally, they can be prevented if we work at the root cause, which is often the belief systems and the stories that boys have inherited around what it means to be a man. And I think what we do particularly well is we kind of act as like the conscious Trojan horse. So we come in with relatable role models who they want to be like, and we find that the messenger is often as important as the message. And, you know, particularly in a time like now, as Rosie was just sharing with the power of social media, that's something we're looking to make a big push into so that we can meet boys where they're at, which is often on their phones, on Snapchat, on TikTok, and just expose them to kind of like wholesome and cool characters who they want to be like.
My name is Brighton, and I'm currently in New York City. I would like to preface this by saying if anybody refused to bet on my chances of finishing high school, I wouldn't consider them crazy. Because growing up in Zambia, in a tiny community where each time there was a flooding, myself and other young people were prevented from going to school because the bridge connecting my house and the community would be washed away. And now, fast forward, I just graduated from Colombia a couple of months ago, and I realized that anything is possible, irrespective of where you're from and the environment in which you were raised. You can charter a path and be a role model to others. So growing up in Zambia, I realized that each time I wanted to know what time it was, I would turn the radio on and wait for the announcer to say, it's now 10 o'clock. And I would get ready to go to school and prepare. Then I realized that radio was considered the most accessible, inexpensive, and cheap medium of information, especially in a place where internet penetration is very low. So I decided at the age of 14 to start running a weekly radio show, which was aimed at inspiring the community to take climate action. But this was a kid who was always at the back of the room, and getting into the studio and expressing myself allowed me to grow skills and be more expressive. Later on, then I established an organization with friends called Agents of Change, which is now training young people as ethical young radio reporters. Together with the Children's Radio Foundation of South Africa, we are now working across 10 African countries, inspiring 1,200 young people, giving them skills to report honestly and truthfully, and creating this ripple effect of change. So that has been an incredible journey, and we are at a stage when young people are now reporting on COVID, using radio and social media to communicate clearly and ethically about issues that matter the most to them.
Fantastic.
And this is all about the power and the purpose of the modern Commonwealth, and a community of countries working together for good, and young people very much the majority, obviously, of the population driving that goodness through. And what it is Her Majesty the Queen's vision. She's always believed in the power of the Commonwealth and young people as a force for good.
You summarised it beautifully, Nicola. I think everything that my grandmother wanted to achieve when she took this huge responsibility on, she's managed. No one could have predicted how the world was going to change in such a short space of time, especially with the digital space. But hearing you guys, knowing the broad spectrum that the QCT sort of engulfs, you guys are the definition of the 21st century Commonwealth and what it means to be part of it. You know, you are there standing for equality, for mutual respect, and for fairness. And I think that is something that every single one of you should be incredibly proud about.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think, from my standpoint, being newer to the world of the Commonwealth, right? I lived in Canada for several years, but it wasn't until joining the family and that I was able to meet so many young people throughout the Commonwealth. If they came with a question, they always offered a solution. Yeah. And that's what I think is so inspiring, and why I'm incredibly proud to be able to work with the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, but why, it's the continuation of the legacy of your grandmother.
The solutions is the most important thing. I learned in the army, don't come to the table with a problem unless you've got a solution. And I think this platform that you guys have created is so, it's just optimistic, right? It's so positive, and that's exactly what you guys need, because there is a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of noise. The experts have described it as an attention economy, which is basically just a shouting match, and it's sort of benefiting the wrong people. But with social media and the way that it can help so many individuals and groups be able to improve, be able to connect, and be able to focus on the things that really matter and the things that bind us rather than the things that divide us.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. So that's exactly what this is all about, finding purpose and meaning. And certainly with Rosie, just really coming to you first of all to talk about what drives you, what you've seen in the work that you've done with Project Rocket, and why creating safe spaces online in the community is so important.
The vision that I share with you has been criticised as lofty over the years, but I think my answer to that is actually that we're working on it, and that it is a work in progress, and that we see every day that world emerging, and we see hate being smothered and called out. And we see that we've reached hundreds of thousands of young people. And I think when you mobilize young people with empathy and to connect each other, you lift that veil of anonymity that exists online. And frankly, it's incredible what is created. And also just acknowledge that these are social issues. They're age old, that if we only blame technology platforms, or we just throw blame at technology altogether, then we're actually removing our own ability as humans to intervene and make a difference. The moment we're scrolling down our phone and we see something horrendous about someone else or a group of people, we have a moment in that time, that tiny moment, to keep scrolling or to do something about it. And so we want to mobilize a group of young people, and in fact a world that does something about it in the tiny moments, not just the really big ones when everyone's watching and your name is attached to something. We are building a next generation of young people that are essentially united and ready to tackle hate. They're sick and tired, like the kid I was when I started Project Rocket. And we see now COVID has pushed us online even further. We don't have a choice anymore. And really what we're seeing is the power of social media. Voices, historically voices who have been suppressed and oppressed, that are getting to speak out. We're tackling some of the biggest issues so much quicker and with an accelerated pace online. So I think for us, it's really about reorienting the spotlight away from the minority of people that are actually doing the wrong thing, and on to the majority of people that are doing the right thing. And instead of that, creating a better world. Let's shine a spotlight on those guys.
I think, Rose, you hit such a good point. I would love to know what your technique is for bearing in mind there is a lot of division, there's a lot of hate, but the people that are probably saying, "Oh, this is lofty," are the people that benefit from the way that it is now, because their voices, because they're able to project probably a lot of their own pain across these platforms onto other people. But what are the techniques? How can you acknowledge or shut down hate in an instant without sharing it or without fueling it?
For us, it's all about, in that moment, equipping young people with really credible and social tools that they can use. So first of all, of course, knowing how to report something or block is really important. But what about ways in which you can mobilize the power of peer pressure in a positive way to shut down hate, to use that power of the group? So whether it's choosing not to keep scrolling and writing the words dislike on a comment, or whether if it's you're not so confident reaching out in person or publicly, perhaps sending someone a private message to let them know that you disagree with the way that they're being treated. So as well as loads of technological strategies, it's really about as well equipping young people with their own sense of values and ethics, so that in those moments they know what they stand for. I think the biggest challenge that we faced over the years, and I felt as a young person, was how can we expect young people to stand up in those moments if they don't know what they stand for?
Look, I think the work that you're doing is anything but lofty.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear on that. It is such important work, and certainly given how long ago you started it, and to see where we are now. Obviously, you know, the space online and everyone's mental and emotional well-being are perhaps more fragile than ever before, certainly with COVID and our dependability on our devices right now. In the absence of human interaction, people are going online more than ever before to feel community. And unfortunately, which you rightly point out, when that community becomes divisive, when that community isn't a pack for good, but is a pack of people ganging up on one another, I think what's challenging about that is that people don't feel an escape, and it can probably feel very lonely in that space. So the work that you're doing is vital, because it's just about people knowing their worth and equally not sharing it, right? Not becoming part of the culture, saying, this is so horrible, and sharing it. It was horrible, stop it right there. And I think that is what is a really key piece of the puzzle there. But I commend you on the work you're doing. I think it's so key, especially for young women, young men as well. But I've been sensitive to what young girls must experience right now in a really large way in the online space.
Yeah, that's an absolutely genius segue to V and positive communities and seeing what's possible coming together.
Yeah, so I created my community online because I just wanted young students, young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to know that you're seen, you're heard, you're valued, you're talented, you're amazing, and wherever your dream goal or dream university is, you can go there and do well and not have to alter yourself. Because I was so worried about money. I was like, Mom, I don't have enough money. Like, I'm going to get there and everyone's going to have so much money and so many expensive things, and I'm going to stick out, and I don't want that. I want to go in and do well. And, you know, and she said, V, like, you are who you are. You come from where you come from, and you're going to go there, not alter yourself, and still, you know, have a positive experience. And I wish that I'd had that from other students as well, someone who'd been through what I'd been through. So I tried to create that community online to let young people know, hey, it's okay, like, you're gonna be fine. During COVID, a lot of students, obviously there were lots of schools that were shut down, and lots of students were like, what do we do now with our time? And so my friends and I, who are in this world that we call StudyTube, we decided to launch a collective channel where all of their favorite study tubers got together in one place, and every single day at 6 p.m. we were uploading a brand new video, teaching skills, teaching things about our degrees, just anything to help them feel like, I can escape to this channel right now and just be in the world of education, calm myself down and kind of leave all the bad stuff. And I just love the fact that I've had the chance to create this really, really positive space online, where sometimes social media can be negative if used incorrectly. And I think it's beautiful to be able to contribute to such a positive space. And I think everyone has the power to do that. You know, you can use your platform, no matter how big or small, to make a positive impact.
And that's where the desire is, right? You've got so many people probably not on the fringes, but in the sort of the negative parts of social media. And then when they find something like your platform, it's like, this is the escape that I've been looking for. Yeah. This is the positivity. This is the community.
And I think that's what's so key too, is as we talk about positivity and optimism and what a healthy online community looks like, it's not an echo chamber. It's not about everyone being in agreement all the time, but being able to have a healthy discourse, being able to disagree. That is so key. It's not trying to build utopia. It's trying to build a healthy community so that people feel safe, heard, and perhaps walk away with a different perspective that they hadn't encountered or experienced or thought at the onset, but that they have that interaction. That's what's so important. That's what this life is all about, right? Learning every day. But if you don't feel that you're in a place that's safe enough to express those thoughts and to be heard and supported in a way that is actually beneficial for us as a community, then where does that leave us? So what you're creating is, I think, in many ways, part of the antidote that we often talk about. This isn't for lack of desire that it's not out there. This is for lack of it being built. And so you guys out there doing the work and building what people really need is really everything.
Yeah, I think just building on that, I think it's Tristan Harris who talks about this being a system of harms. The kid who's in his corner, who's feeling lonely, who's feeling isolated, there is a connection to the kid who then becomes radicalized, who then is more vulnerable to conspiracy theories. You know, it is all connected. And I think in our line of work, particularly working with boys and masculinity, we kind of use this phrase, which is, you know, boy psychology is I am center of the universe and everything revolves around me and give me more, give me more. But healthy man or healthy adult psychology is actually I'm a part of the universe and I'm here to serve and I'm here to give and I'm here to contribute. And we only need to look at who's running our respective countries, companies, or designing our tech platforms to realize what psychology that they're stuck in. If we get to the core of it, if I come back to what we're trying to do with the man cave, is really come back to, it doesn't, you know, gender is fluid. I fundamentally believe that, but masculinity in and of itself is at a point of evolution where, you know, the narrative that we've inherited, the algorithms that perpetuate that narrative, you know, you click on something because, as you said before, it hijacks your attention and it's interesting. We have some of the smartest minds in the world working on hijacking our attention, but actually it's impulse driven, not values driven. And so I think what we're trying to do, coming back to what I shared earlier with the Man Cave, is expose them to cool people they want to be like, who have range in their identity, that they can be strong and stoic, but the next day they can shed a tear, they can be emotional, they can be held, they can be cared for. They don't actually lose any of their masculinity doing that, but they actually gain more of their humanity. That's not really done on a mass scale. And I think what we're finding with the Man Cave is boys and young men want that space to be real. They absolutely want that space. But as we all know from our respective life experiences, vulnerability is bloody scary. It is. And even when you, like in my experience, when I get to a point, I'm like, okay, I'm being vulnerable. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm actually just being safe, saying something I've rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. It's edgy, it's raw, it's uncomfortable. But on the other side, and I'll quote Brené Brown here, is that vulnerability brings connection, and connection is why we are here. It brings meaning and it brings purpose to our lives. And so we've started to run, you know, because of COVID, we've shifted our programs online, being a bit nervous, dealing with rowdy teenage boys, how they're going to deal with this. They love it. And it's just finally realizing they're not alone. And I think what we're really trying to do over this next 6 months with the Man Cave is like proactively work with an algorithm that is social media and give them positive, diverse role models of masculinity so they can take the bits that they resonate with and create their own version of what it means to be a healthy adult, whether they want to identify as a man or not.
Well said, Hunter. My goodness.
Yeah, well said. And I love the fact that you're quoting Brené Brown and also bringing up Tristan Harris, because the two people that we absolutely adore as well. And then we know. But I think just as much as 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, it was like you're talking about your mental health was a sign of weakness. It's like, no, it's not. Just as much as vulnerability was supposedly a weakness, it's like, no, it's not. If we are all able to show our vulnerability, that doesn't mean that you're weak. If anything, I believe that's probably showing most of your strength. And if you're so in touch with your emotions and you know where you are on each day, well, that's a superpower. Because if everybody else is still stuck in the old way, then the new way is surely to be able to think differently and think ahead of everybody else.
And even expand it beyond your mental health. It's so much bigger than that. Yeah. The holistic approach, it's not just what's going on in your head. What's going on in here. It's people really acknowledging you're having an entire experience as a human being, and it's not just going to be what's going on in your head. It's a fully fledged emotional experience. And so that's why we really focus on, especially in the digital space, the emotional well-being that you speak of, because it's that's going to be the way that we all get through any sort of crisis, but even just the day-to-day.
And that's it, right? It's exactly what we've all been talking about. Why not profit off compassion and empathy? Right? It's definitely possible. Everyone we've spoken to says it's possible. So, you know, maybe the time has come to be able to create the antidote, to be able to create the alternative on a global scale. Because whether you're on these platforms or not, whether you're a user or not, you're still plugged into this giant global nervous system of which the happiness and the misery of the world is felt universally. Well, it certainly has uplifted me. Yeah. Knowing that there are so many people out there who think the same and are actually acting on it.
It's really positive. We've got just a few seconds to come to Brighton just to talk about the importance of facts and ethics in reporting.
Brighton, take as long as you want.
Thank you so much. I felt really excited when you spoke about how we are living in this commodized social media environment that values money over genuine connections. And for me personally, when I started radio, when I was around 14, the intention was, how do we begin to shift from this angle where we have to let go of hurt and legacy environmental liabilities to this other end, where now we let come. How do we let go of certain things to let come of good energies, let come of positive ripple effects in the community, and seeing radio as the most trusted conduit of doing that. And for me to be able to speak factually, I decided to work with university professors from the nearest university near where I lived. I would bring in leaders in the community. I would bring in women that were being affected by pollution, food security, and good nutrition in their homes. So I would bring them on radio, have them tell their own personal stories. Also bring in responsible individuals, including government and the local authority, to engage in productive dialogue. So that connection of ensuring that there is the accurate source of evidence brought into the conversation. So what I started observing was, after being on radio, so many young people were saying, we want to come and speak and share our stories. We want to come and speak about not only environment, but sexual reproductive health. We want to come and speak about the stigma associated with young people living with HIV and AIDS. He started running a podcast where he could speak about the different forms of stigma, the ways in which stigma manifests, and ways through which the community could mobilize. Now we created an Africa-wide program that is training young people to understand, first of all, how do you find credible sources of information? Are you going to just depend on a single tweet as a source of information, or you want to go deeper, go that extra mile and understand the source of the information that you're about to share? Because I've come to learn, you can never change the world just by using single tweets as a source of information. So our radio model focuses on identifying young people that want to speak about things they are affected with. And secondly, focusing on reporting and ethics. How do you realize that when you post online, you post to the world? And do you want to be that individual that spreads hate speech? Do you want to be that individual that spreads propaganda? Because you have these tools, you have these instruments in your own hands. How can you use them for social good? When I look at all this, I realize that healthy personal relationships are being drowned out by social media flare-ups with news that is fake. So how do we now begin to build a movement, like a human rights movement, that is all for positivity and dismantling all this hate speech and social media pathways that seem not to be working for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so true. And when you look at what these platforms are capable of with that reach and what it then propels in terms of trolling, you know, the work that you are obviously in working the space of, Rosie, you can either train people to be cruel or you can train people to be kind. And it's really that simple. And I think as long as we are actively working in that space and that, you know, people are taking responsibility for what's happening in the online spaces, that's what's really key.
Going back to all your points, I think the one sort of combining piece here is courage, right? Is despite everything that's happening, it takes a huge amount of courage for you guys to set up a community like you have, but then also for other people to stand up to hate, to stand up to disinformation, to stand up to lies. You know, we live in a world where a lot of other people are benefiting from it. But, you know, again, like full respect to you guys, every single one of you, stamp those lies out, stamp the mistruths out, because it does, it reaches people and communities that become incredibly confused. And again, you can feel that across the world at the moment. So,
well, I think we all know how good it feels just to be around positivity and optimism. That's what you're doing, and we need more of that. So really, really keep it up.
I just love the fact that you're also well connected as well. That's what the QCT, this is what this platform was created to bind you guys together, to use that thinking, that awareness, that self-awareness that you guys have to be able to make the world a better place. I say you. I want to include us. I really feel as I'm way too old for a conversation.
Stop. We're not.
No, but it's true. But it's true. This is the world that you guys are going to inherit. And I'm saying you guys because I'm predicting that most of you in your late 20s and Archie, and it's on us now. It's on all of us collectively to make the world a better place. And we are.
Thank you for all the work you're doing. And as much as we can do to support you through Queen's Commonwealth Trust, please know that we are here to lend our support.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Thank
Cheers,
you so
guys.
much.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Nicola.
Bye-bye.